Okay, so in this lesson we're going to talk about the three different selectors. The element selector, the ID selector, and the class selector. So the selectors are used to find or select the HTML elements based on their element name, ID, class, attribute, and more. So let's look at our HTML. So our HTML is here in the body on this example. And our selector in our CSS, and it's going to select all of our HTML tags that are all designated with a P, except for our H1. You can see that all of everything that's been selected here, and that it's centered and in red, for which what our CSS has styled it as, except for our H1, which is just black and a header and a little bit larger. So that would be our selector. And so this example is an example of our first selector, which is the element selector. So basically it's where the elements on the page are all selected by the P tag. So the next selector we'll look at is the ID selector. So the ID selector uses the ID attribute of an HTML element to select a specific element. So let's take a look at this on the HTML. So our P tag, we've added a specific tag here. So we've added the ID equals quotation marks para 1. So with this little ID equals para 1, we have created a very specific tag for a P tag, which is different from these P tags. So this will select in our HTML, this will just select this one section, this one hello world. So you can see this over here where it's the hello world is selected, and that is where an ID selector will be used. So the third selector is the class selector. The class selector selects HTML elements with a specific class attribute. So we look in here in our HTML, we have a class attribute here called class equals center, and that is going to denote this text right here, the red and center aligned heading, which is our heading here. Now the second one is just a regular P tag, so it does not get our styling up here from our CSS. So that will not be center and red. It's just black and aligned left. So what it means when you can go in here and give it the class tag here, and we'll add it to the paragraph, and then it will also use the CSS up here. So when you run it, it will also be red and centered. And that's it for selectors.